Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Home is Where the Dark Is. This is Alex Crescioni, and in this episode, I'm going to share some of my struggles with being sober in the music industry. If you're newly sober and you're trying to navigate a change in lifestyle, whether you're in the music industry yourself or in any kind of entertainment or just in general, I think a lot of this applies. The first thing that was a major struggle for me was trying to readapt, like when going out, because we go to shows, we go to networking things, we go to people's events. Everyone has a thing that they want you to go to or you're invited to, and a lot of these places it's social, so there's drinking, there's partying, and you have to decide for yourself whether you can handle that environment moving forward as a sober person. And I think it's different for everybody. For me, I can still go out here and there, and I think it a lot depends on my mood, but I think you'll realize this too, is that maybe there will be times where you're feeling a little dark and you're feeling a little bit more sensitive to it. So there might be times where you just choose not to go out, and there might be times where you feel okay to go out. But for me, there have been times where, since I got sober, where a lot of it is just I just don't want to go out. And it's not that I don't trust myself, it's just that I don't like being around that environment anymore. It's hard to describe unless you've been a drinker and then gone completely sober. Sometimes the environments can get just a bit difficult and uncomfortable. Last night I went out to meet a friend of mine at a local bar close to my house, and we just hung out. I had some dinner, he had a few drinks and I had my Diet Coke or whatever, but it's totally fine in certain situations like that. It's totally fine, it's just me and a friend, and those situations are fine. But the situations that are a bit difficult are when, you get invited out to a party, or you're at a bar, or someone wants to join you at a bar and it's really busy and everyone's already drunk, and you're just kind of like, I have no, you can't even really network at that point or have like a decent conversation with somebody because everyone's plastered or, super buzzed or whatever. So in those situations, I can't really be around anymore. And it's okay for you to decide as a sober person, if anyone gives you a hard time about this stuff, then that's telling you something. It's okay to say to someone, whether it's your partner or a friend or whoever, it's like, look, I don't really go out anymore. If you like to meet up for coffee, if you like to meet up for dinner, whatever, let's do that. But if anyone judges you for deciding not to partake in going to bars and partying or whatever because you're trying to better your life and be sober and heal and be healthier, if anyone judges you for that in a negative way, you really have to remove them from your life. And unfortunately, sometimes they might be people that you don't want to remove from your life, but it's in your best interest to. I found that, fortunately I haven't lost that many friends when I got sober, but I have realized, looking back on relationships I've been in, that in my attempts to be better and to be sober, I've realized that some of the people I've been with just didn't really want the best for me. Some people will enable you. Some people will not want the best for you. And that's another hard thing that you have to deal with as well. I remember one of my past relationships. This is when I was still drinking, and I was making the attempt to wean off and to drink less, yet the person I was with was, like a daily drinker. I wouldn't say like she wasn't a crazy alcoholic or everything, but from her culture, it was like it's just a thing to drink, have some wine or have a couple glasses of wine every day, and then have a few on the weekend. But it was harder for me in that situation to get sober because she wanted me to drink with her. And some people, like, they feel awkward if you're out at dinner or you're wherever, and they feel awkward if you're not drinking with them because it makes them feel bad about themselves for some reason, which is stupid, but that's a big issue for sure. But in that situation, I really struggled because the person I was with wasn't looking out for my best interests, and I'd voiced this to her. But there was no like, yeah, let's, I'll help you. I will, let's wind it down. Let's cut back, because, she didn't want to, and that's completely fine. And another thing that I've learned from talking to other people that are close to me, that have been through different situations, is that sometimes relationships just end when one person decides to be sober and the other person doesn't want to or doesn't support that person's decision, because there's too much conflict and there's too much clashing, unfortunately. And I honestly think it should be the opposite. I think if you're with someone that truly loves you and cares about you, that if either person decides to get sober, it should be positive. It should be helping one another. It shouldn't be conflict and shouldn't be an issue. But unfortunately, that happens a lot. That's something else to look out for. If you're struggling with that in your sobriety and you're noticing that the people around you aren't really there for you in that regard, you have to do your best to find new people that are. And that's probably, for me, that's been the hardest thing about sobriety, especially in the music industry, is because so much of it is about, networking and gatherings and people and partying and bars and venues and getting beers. And don't get me wrong, I used to really enjoy going out and seeing shows and having a couple of beers, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. It's just when you decide to stop, it can become an issue, and it can be a struggle, and there might be some people you need to leave behind, and that's okay. And if they don't understand, then that's fine too. You have to let them go, unfortunately, because it's about your life. I've seen people, everyone knows people that they try to get sober and maybe they last for a little while, but then they relapse and they start again, and then goes downhill very, very fast. So it's so important to put yourself around people that support you and that truly care about you, because people will say they care about you, but then their actions show differently, and it's extremely important to look out for that. And it was a major, major wake-up call for me in my sobriety, and it's hurtful. It's really hurtful, because there's people I truly loved and cared about, still do, that I realize maybe they didn't love and care about me as much as I did for them, and that hurts. That hurts to realize, that hurts to accept. Well, it's hard to accept. So other things that are difficult to navigate with your sobriety music is basically like, just having to tell, just having to have that conversation with your partner or your close friends, and having to tell them, that you're making a decision, and then seeing their reaction, and then just being able to say, like, look, I need your support. I'd really appreciate your support. And you might be surprised in their reaction and their judgment. And I've unfortunately had some situations where, I was kind of shocked by the lack of caring, the lack of taking it seriously. So also another difficult thing is if you're living with somebody and you want to be sober and they don't, sometimes it's fine. And I know people that they live together and it's fine. But for me, like with a couple of relationships ago, it was really hard. Like I said before, like she wanted to drink daily, and there's always alcohol around, so it's hard to escape. Ultimately, that relationship ended for different reasons. But in another relationship where I decided to get sober, there's still alcohol in the house, like still, daily drinking. And fortunately, I was fine, and I handled it well. But it just kind of hurts to know that, someone is struggling and someone is trying to be better, but you're still drinking every day, and still being upset when you decide that, look, I don't want to go out tonight, or I don't want to go out to a bar, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, because it's just not the right environment for me anymore. It's an environment I don't want to be in. But if your partner takes it personally and doesn't understand, then that's really going to be difficult. So just look out for these things. I know it's difficult. It's really, really, truly a journey. It can be a battle. But if you need AA, then definitely try AA. Fortunately, I've been pretty much able to handle it on my own. And I know a lot of people can just cold turkey it, and then they just continue on day to day, and they do great. And I know people like that, and I know a lot of people that are in AA and they do great. So it's really what works for you. But yeah, do not feel bad about cutting people out of your life that aren't there to support you, that aren't there to see you thrive, and aren't there to see you the best version of yourself and to see you healthy. I know it's really hard, but sometimes you have to let people go. And sometimes they'll just let you go. Sometimes they'll just do it for you, surprisingly. So just let all those things happen, and know that your sobriety is the most important thing if you truly have a problem. And just wanted to share that with you guys today. I go up and down with my sobriety. Like, I've never had the urge to drink. I can still go out, I can still see people drink, and I'm not like dying to have a beer or anything. But what I do struggle with is, it does feel like there's a void there. It feels like, maybe since the alcohol isn't there anymore, that escape isn't there, then I find, okay, well, I have to put it into something else, because like people say, like, oh, you're just transferring your addiction to something else, and there's a lot of truth in that, because some people, when they become sober, maybe they'll go really hard into work, or they'll go really hard into yoga, or they'll really go hard into religion. That's another thing that I see a lot of people do, is they've never gave a shit about religion their entire life, or they never talked about it at all, and then all of a sudden they're sober and awake, and they decide that they're converting to Islam, or they're Christians now, and like, it's just if that's what they need to do to stay healthy and to stay away from the booze, then great, but it's it's like we're just transferring the addiction. And for me, I think it's been harder because I haven't really found my next thing to like pour myself into. I mean, I've always been a workaholic, so I've always been like in the studio and trying to work on as much music as I can, and record other artists, make records, and master this podcast, which I've really been enjoying more and more as I do it. It's been in the beginning it was very hard. There was a lot of resistance because it was so uncomfortable for me, and it's still like there's still days where I don't want to do it because it can be uncomfortable, because in a lot of these podcasts I'm very vulnerable, and I share a lot. Like in this one, I share a lot about my life and my personal struggles, but I do it because I know if I can help one person, if it helps one other person, then it means the world to me. So, and I'm just trying to be more open, and it's actually very therapeutic for me. So anyway, if you're struggling with your sobriety in music or just in life in general, you're not alone. Everyone goes through it. Everyone has their struggles, And feel free to send me any questions, or if you need to vent, to stygiansound@gmail.com. You can contact me through my website, alexcrescioni.com, at the contact page. If you want to have a conversation, we can book a consultation. If you're a musician and you have a new record or a new EP or your new singles ready to go and you have them all mixed perfectly and you want some sick mastering, I'll hook you up, because I absolutely love mastering. And I've just been working on it more lately, and I've been talking about it as well in some of my previous videos. But, I've been doing recording, production, mixing, and mastering for a while now, but I've been leaning more towards mastering lately, because also it really reminds me of my dear lost friend Mike Wells. He was a mastering engineer, and I've talked about him as well in previous episodes. And it's doing more mastering, it helps me feel more connected with him. He passed away a couple years ago, and he was really struggling, but he was a fantastic mastering engineer, and I got to work with him on a lot of projects. And yeah, just when I master it helps me feel closer to him. So I guess I'm just trying to live through him a little bit with my mastering work, and makes me feel closer to him. So anyway, send me your questions, get in touch, anything you need, or if you just want to say hello, feel free. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.